welcome to In the Rising podcast. My name is Bettina Brown, and this is the platform I've chosen to talk about living a life that's in alignment with our hopes, our dreams, and our goals, and basically leaving behind the shame-blame game that does nothing for us except keep us in ever-ending cycles of depression and sadness and unfulfillment. You know, there are times we have conversations with people and we know during the conversation that our energy is lifting up, we are more excited about life and have a better, brighter view of it. And leaving the conversation, we know 100% that going forward, we are going to implement some of the things that were talked about. We just know we feel good, that our bones are vibrating at a positive energy. And that is exactly how I felt after my conversation with Nita Patel, who is a phenomenal woman, helping other women, empowering other women, and has a great platform that she stands on as well. She's a coach, she's a mother, and she is just an entrepreneur doing wonderful things. She just published her book, Boss Vibes, Self-Esteem, Success, and the Art of Etiquette, and we delve a little bit into that book as well as her purpose in writing this book in the following interview. So without further ado, here's the interview with Nita Patel. So I'm very excited about today because I get the opportunity and all of you get the opportunity to meet Nita Patel, an artist, a speaker, a coach, an author, and last but not least, a mother. And I'd like to welcome Nita to the show today. And it's really wonderful to finally speak with you and get this opportunity to get this interview going. So where are you calling from today?
I am in Dallas today.
Well, then you're in the neighboring state. I'm in New Mexico.
Okay.
So I had a chance to read a short bio about you, and I felt immediately connected to you because I've also had the chance to grow up on both sides of the Atlantic. Now, there are really wonderful things that come out of that, but then there can also be some trials. And you had mentioned in your bio that you would attempt to mold into your environment here in the US by disguising your English accent. Would you share a little bit more about how this experience was and how it shaped you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure like you've experienced, I recall one specific incident when I was here in the States. And it was in 5th grade. I was standing in line for recess, and there were these kids behind me making fun of me because they didn't understand me. And, they kept saying things to the effect of how I couldn't speak English. And so they kept, they said it once, twice, the third time. I think about the 4th time I heard it, I snapped. And, I was born in London and, I went to school there as well as in Dallas. And so someone telling me that I can't speak English, that just blew my top. And so I snapped and I turned around and I was like, no, you can't speak English. You don't even know English. I said, you speak American and that's not the same thing as English. And there was a long moment of pause followed by laughter. And that was my teaching moment. Those are the moments where we learn how to, it's a kind of a belief setting moment, if you will. And so I set the belief in that moment that if I blend and hide myself, then I'm going to be accepted. And so that was the day that I decided I was going to learn American, because these kids were not smart enough to speak the real English language. And, they couldn't even spell English correctly. I had to learn a whole new way of spelling. But if I wanted to be accepted and if I wanted to have friends, I was going to have to learn the American way of speaking. And, it was easy for me because I was, it's in those moments where we are kind of, I don't want to say suffering, but in those moments of panic is sometimes where we come up with the most brilliant solutions for ourselves. And I think that's what happened for me. I came up with a solution in that moment. And I learned, and I knew that people in both countries were different, and it was my job to adapt, based on where I was. So I think the phrase "when in Rome" was very fitting,
Yes.
although I did not know it at the time.
Yes, absolutely. And that can be very traumatic too, when you are trying to fit in and there's the separation, and
Absolutely.
that's especially hard when we're younger as well, when you're trying to fit in, especially with that, for sure. But I think your English is right. You were speaking the correct English. We were speaking the wrong stuff over here on this side. So that kind of blending in was a coping strategy when you were younger. Do you feel that coping strategy was something that was helpful for you, or did it become harmful later on?
I think it's both. I mean, I certainly think it was more helpful because I was more cognizant and respectful to other people's cultures, no matter, who they were, where they came from. And I really tried to understand where people are coming from so that I can connect with them better as an adult. It helped me in my career. It helped me expand my, personal experiences when I traveled as well, because you just are automatically, you just assume that everything is different in a different culture and different land in a different country. And so it was almost like you look forward to, okay, I'm going to learn some new words in a different language here. So I think in that sense, it was certainly a very positive thing. I would say maybe the downside to that was, when you feel like, or I should say, when I felt like I was kind of going outside of the box, I had to kind of put myself back in the box to fit in. And so I think that prevented me from being who I really was until I learned, how to kind of step outside of that place. And so I think that conditioning, that belief system, until I learned to step away from that kind of, it was my shadow for a long time.
And I like the way you described it, that you were trying to be inside that box and then being outside that box was more in alignment, what it sounds like, with who you really are. And
And it's liberating, right?
yes,
Yeah, it's certainly liberating when you're not trying to fit into what society or people, think you're supposed to be or do or act or whatever it might be.
absolutely. Do you feel that took a process for you, Nita, to learn to be comfortable outside of the box, comfortable in your own skin?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think you have to make a decision that you are going to be authentic to yourself, and you owe it to yourself to, find that alignment. And it's certainly a journey. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that ties in with this actually next question that I have for you. So my podcast title is called In the Rising. And a lot of that came about because I really love Katy Perry's song Rise, where she associates rising with not just surviving, but actually thriving. What do you think are two experiences in your life, Nita, that are pivot points that helped you rise to your current level, living outside of that box?
Um, I would say, there's so many moments that I could share, but one that kind of stands out to me right now is when I was at my doctor's office one day, and he called me because he wanted to discuss my lab work with me, which was not a big deal for me at the time because I had had plenty of surgeries, and I had feminine body parts that were not cooperating with me. So it was really nothing new. I had parts and of my ovaries removed over time. And so, he calls me in to discuss my results. So it's not a big deal. And, but that day he, said, oh, by the way, you have some precancer cells.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? And he said, I'd like to see you in 30 days. We're going to monitor this. It could go away or it could turn into, full blown cancer. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's great. And I just had this glazed over look on my face, and he looks at me, and I had been going to him for about 20 years. So, he knew me pretty
Yes.
well. And he looks at me and he's like, I'm going to see you in 14 days. I think I had this, look like I had seen a ghost at that moment. Um, and I didn't really know what was going on. I'm trying to process what he just said, but I really wasn't sure how to process it. Again, not being able to be vulnerable was one of the things that just kind of helped me keep my composure in the moment. And he looked at me and he said, I want to make sure you're okay. And I was like, all right, whatever. I didn't know what was going on in the moment. I got dressed and, was making my way out to check out. And as I am walking out, and it's like this happened in slow motion. I remember closing the door to that room. And I thought to myself, oh no, I'm done with this. This is it. I am not having any more surgeries. I'm not coming back to the doctor. I am done with all of this in my life. I was just so tired of, allowing life to happen to me. And it was in that moment that I decided I was going to run my life. I wasn't going to let it happen to me. And that was pretty much it. I never went back to see him, until my next annual, which was actually, I waited a little bit longer to go back and see him, and almost a year and a half later. But it was a decision that I made, that I am going to take control of my life. And just about everything in my life changed after that moment. The people around me, what I was doing, how I saw the world, the things that I was investing in. I had never really learned to invest in myself until this pivotal moment. And so it was a pretty big moment, pretty big life-changing moment for me, I would say.
Absolutely. And gosh, thank you for sharing that. That is a huge moment for you. And I can hear it in your voice, just that there was a Nita before and a Nita after. And I also hear some pride in your voice of how you shifted to where you were going to not let life happen to you, but be invested in the action steps of your life with that. That's very powerful. And you also mentioned in your bio that you are now coaching, or you have coached executive women to feel confident and comfortable in front of crowds. So how did you actually end up in that position? Was that before or after this pretty big pivot point in your life?
It was actually before. I had always had a passion for helping women. And even my coaching today is really focused around supporting women. I feel like, and, I'm equal opportunity by all means. I'm never going to turn someone away who is asking for help, but I just feel that men are raised with more confidence when they're young. And women are raised to be very conscious of other people's feelings around us. And, we have to be perfect in so many different ways. And so I just feel like women need that extra support of confidence. And so I've always had a passion for helping women. And in this particular time, I had launched this group at the company I was working for, a women's group. And so I would have to ask, executive women to come and speak at our monthly forums. Mm-hmm. And they would ask me for feedback at the end of the event. And I never thought anything of it, until someone on my team pointed it out to me. And so one day there was an executive who spoke, and then she came up to me and she said, how did you think that went? How do you think the event went? How was my presentation? And I didn't hesitate, and I don't know if this was my lack of awareness at the time or what, but I didn't hesitate. And I said, well, it was great, but, to engage with the audience, maybe you could make a little more eye contact so that they really connect with you and they feel your words. And I just started blurting out all these things. And so a couple of the ladies who were on this team of this group, they reached out to me afterwards and they're like, I cannot believe you just said that to her. And that's when I, paused and I was like, oh, was I not supposed to? But I guess it was just natural for me to provide that feedback. That was a part of my subconscious that I didn't filter, I guess, with everything else that I did filter.
Honest feedback, yeah.
But I felt like it was my place to, and I had been in front of crowds since I was very young. I was very fortunate, in some way or another, I was either speaking or, singing or dancing or something. And so I had much of a less, stage fear because of everything that I had gone through as a child, and so I just didn't think twice of it, when someone asked me that. But yeah, that happened a few times. And I think after some people said some things to me, I was a little bit more conscious of how I gave my feedback. But it was a little shocking to me, after I analyzed all of it, and I was like, huh, that's interesting.
So you were surprised that they were like, wow, you gave really good feedback, but you were just, that was comfortable for you. You wanted to help someone be more effective in their presentations, and you were not going to hide behind it. You wanted them to be the best they could be. Does that sound?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely unfiltered. I wanted to help. And I think that, like I said earlier, especially for women, you don't realize, and here's an interesting statistic that I'll share with you, which I didn't know, of course, at the time. At the time, I just felt like I was doing what was right. But, now looking back, it's very interesting because women who enter the workforce, I believe it's 27% of women think that they're going to reach upper management. And by the time women gain enough experience to get to that level, only 13% of women feel that they can actually, get a title for upper management, for an upper management position. And so think about, that's such an incredible and an appalling statistic.
It's a large number. Yeah.
Right. I mean, after you have so much experience, you just don't feel like you're good enough to get that title. And so I think that's, again, that's where I feel the need to support women to build that confidence or rebuild the confidence, remove those layers of inhibition and say, no, you can have what you want.
Yes. Were you surprised by the number of women? Like, I'm surprised by that statistic, but were you surprised that so many women did not have confidence in the corporate world, regardless of their education level?
I did. And especially with titles, you think that someone has a VP or senior VP title in a large organization, you think that, they've made it, they've checked all the boxes and, they're successful and everything is, perfect in their lives. But, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, life is a journey for everyone.
Yes.
And, to me, I've learned to have compassion towards everyone, no matter who they are, where they are. I think we all will constantly need that push. We all need a coach to help us meet that next milestone, get to the next goal, achieve that next dream. We all need a coach. And so I think compassion is the word that comes to mind when you ask me that.
I think that's great. I think that's a great word, because compassion is something that we could all have a little bit more of in our world, regardless if it's a small room or a larger place. Just having compassion for one another is huge. And I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that. And compassion with ourselves, right? Through our journey.
Of course.
Absolutely. So I am really excited to talk about your book, Boss Vibes, Self-Esteem, Success, and the Art of Etiquette. You have a sentence in there, and I'm going to quote this, if that's okay.
Sure.
This new version of you will not only be polished and respected, but you will be bursting with confidence and self-esteem. So I was super energized just by that sentence, and I love this sentence. What are ways you believe someone can start becoming a new you when you're maybe in a coaching way or someone reading your book? What are some ways that being a new you can be produced?
I would say pick an area of your life. The book covers a lot of different aspects. It covers how you dress, how you conduct yourself in the workplace, how you conduct yourself out and about, um, when you travel, when you're at a restaurant. I mean, there's so many different components, but I would say no matter what area of life you're trying to improve, it's just a 2-degree shift. And that's, it's the simplicity, the message of simplicity that I wanted to share in my book. I want to make it very easy for someone to, share a tool to make them feel better or elevate their mood. And so it's just 1 or 2 things that you have to do differently in an area where you can make that shift. So I'll give you a couple examples.
Yes.
Like when you're getting dressed for your day, you don't have to go out and buy a new wardrobe. Wear the things that make you feel good as you're prepping for your day. But take a lint brush, a lint roller, and roll your outfit before you put it on. Iron it or steam it. Pay attention to make sure that your shoes are clean, or shined. It's just all the little details that really make you stand out, that elevate you as a person, as a brand, whether it's personal, professional. It's all in the details. Another example I can give you is I talk a lot about in the communications chapter, I talk a lot about body language, and that's something that I go much deeper into in my programs, is how to leverage your body language to boost your mood. And so, this is a classic kind of almost a cliche pose where, you see a man with his legs up on the desk and his hands behind his head. I'm doing it right now as I'm saying.
I was imitating it on this side, believe it or not. Power pose.
It's a cliche pose, but when you put yourself in that pose, in that position, stay in it for 2 minutes, it actually changes the hormones in your body because of the positioning. And so there's a physiological reaction based on how your body is, whether you're slouched or whether you're sitting up straight. And that position actually reduces cortisol levels. It increases your testosterone, leaving you feeling so much more confident. And so, I share things like this because that's the 2-degree shift. When you're about to walk into a difficult conversation, or you're about to walk into a, big presentation that you might be nervous about, shut the door of your office or wherever you are, go in a private place, do that body pose for 2 minutes, and you're going to automatically, your body, your body chemistry is going to change, and it's going to leave you feeling more confident. And so these are, I think, just simple secrets and tools and techniques that we can all apply in our day, every day. It's such a, small and easy thing to do.
That's a really powerful example. And what I really like about it is that you express it's only like a 1 to 2 degree shift. Small actions make big results, and small actions with small actions add up, because I feel many people, myself included, can at times be in like a Olivia overwhelmed. Just there's so much, and I want to change so much, and I have these goals and desires, but my goodness, there are so many things that I have to do. But you're describing, it doesn't take everything all at once. It can do small things. And when you were talking about, getting dressed, and so what I really liked was just the attention to detail about taking care of yourself in our presentation. I believe we certainly have gotten very lax, and that has its benefits. But when we dress up, there's a different pose and a mindset that goes into presenting your best self, and it doesn't matter what the price tag is, it's you. And when you feel good about you, that is what your biggest thing will be, that shines out your confidence. And so anything that can help that, it doesn't take much to just polish your shoes or wipe them off or take a lint roller, and
Yeah, yeah,
those are
very,
very
very
practical.
small things. Right, right. I mean, we're not trying to revamp your whole closet here. It's just tidying up and learning that the things that you wear that make you feel good, the things that you wear, like your favorite dress, for example, you put on your favorite dress and you're going to stand a little bit taller. You're going to feel
Yes.
much better about yourself. You put on your favorite pair of heels. It's a different feeling that you're walking in. And so how can you keep that confidence all day? You don't want to wear your favorite pair of heels all day.
No. No,
Um,
you don't. No, you don't.
no, even those will hurt at some point.
Yeah.
But it's just how can you apply different ways throughout your day to keep feeling amazing? At the end of the day, it's all about how you experience every day, right?
Yes.
We chase this abstract idea of happiness and success, and it's really in the small things of how we live our day.
Absolutely. I like the way that you put that. What prompted you to just follow through on writing a book? Because I had looked up that statistic, is that 97% of people feel they would like to write a book in their lifetime, and 3% actually start writing it, but only 1% actually publish it. What prompted you to follow all the way through? What was your energy?
Wow. Um, I would say there was a point in my career where I had interviewed and hired so many people in a very short span of time. And also, I had managed a large group of, a large team at the time. And it was just amazing to me how people showed up, how they presented themselves, expecting to get a job or get a promotion, how they would conduct themselves in the office, but then have completely opposite expectations. Their personal presence was one thing when people showed up to interviews. It was just little things like that. There was this lady one time, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a lady one time who came to an interview, and oh my gosh, I don't think that I heard anything she said because she had these gigantic dangling earrings that were just, moving the whole time. And her nails were painted some glittery color. She had big rings on. And all I was doing is watching all this sparkling jewelry and moving pieces on her. I honestly don't know what she said. But she really wanted the job, and, she really needed the job. And it was unfortunate that she didn't prepare herself. She didn't prepare and do the research to say, this is the culture of the company that I'm going to interview in. This is how people dress there. This is how I should, present myself. And so it's all those little things, the awareness that I talk about. That's the awareness that you have to form when do your
Yes.
research, when you're going to interview for a job. She didn't do any of that. And so, unfortunately, she didn't get the job because it was not going to be a good cultural fit, despite everything else. Um, but, it's just that awareness. And I think I saw that so much. And I saw a gap because I don't think that people were being told this is how you need to show up and this is why you need to show up. And
Yeah.
so I think it was that moment that, I felt really compelled to share this information with the world. And I think even in our digital age, um, we seem to be getting lost in our devices when we're out and about in public. And so I think it was just a couple of things like that that really made me say, okay, I'm going to write this down and I'm going to share it with the world because it's the right time to do it.
Absolutely. I love that you were trying to help the next individual, but it does. You're learning about the culture and learning how to present yourself. into different environments, because we can be outside of that box, but then if we are going to work at a certain place, we have a culture, a box that we have to somewhat be within in order to help that company move forward. And so learning to navigate that is certainly important. I love that you wrote this book. I really am excited. I love the title, Boss Vibes. I really do. I think that is really, you can be a boss whether it is with a title or not. Absolutely. I love
For
that.
sure.
Absolutely. So this is a question I'm just going to ask everyone. What does rising to your best self regarding Nita Patel look like?
Writing to my best self.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I would say, so is this as if I was in the future? Is that how
Yes.
you're asking? Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say, take advantage of the moment. I think that's living in the present and taking advantage of the opportunities in the present moment, I would say is the biggest lesson. When you act on something, when you make a decision, that's when life happens for you. And for me, whether it was the book that I decided to act on or, other decisions, that's when you find your path. That's when you find alignment in your purpose. I think we spend too much of our time living in the past or the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it almost prevents us from making decisions in the moment. And that prevents us from finding our dream, or living our dream rather. So I would say that's one key message that I would share.
I think that's an excellent message. I think that's an excellent message. I would love for you to share, what projects are you currently working on, and how can listeners learn more about you and connect with you?
Absolutely. So I love that you shared the book statistic. Yes. That is one of the programs that I'm offering right now. I am offering a Write Your Book in 90 Days, and it starts at the end of the month. And 90 days, I'm going to equate that to 12 weeks. And I know we have some holidays coming up here. And so, it'll carry over. Those weeks will carry over. We will skip the holiday weeks. But it is about helping you get your book started and finishing it. We're going to go through the whole process. And I'm also going to, share publishing options with you that I have partnered with some various companies. And so I really want to provide, that is kind of my give back, is to help people get their book written, because I knew what a journey it was for me. And if I had some coaching and direction, I know I would have finished my book a lot sooner. So that's one of the programs that I'm offering. And it's a great return, on investment. If you've been doing something for a long time and you are an expert in your field, this is the way to add to your credentials. It's a way to, just elevate your authority in that field. I think it's just an incredible thing that opens doors for you. So that's one thing I'm offering. The other thing that I'm offering is I have also a 12-week course that is called Elevate Your Inner Boss Vibes. And it's all about, clearing out, kind of working through our inner awareness through various aspects, whether it's our fears, whether we need to address the idea of forgiveness, clearing out all the junk, I'll call it, from your past, so that you can imbibe these 2-degree shifts that I talk about in my book, really understand how to have your presence and confidence. Because when you're confident, you make decisions, you make the right decisions rather. And when you make decisions, doors open up for you. And so I think it's very powerful being able to learn tools and techniques for that. So, we do inner work, we do outer work, and then we talk about how to turn your dreams into goals. And so that is also a 12-week program. You can find me at nita-patel.com, and you can submit an inquiry there, or you can email me directly at reachme@nita-patel.com.
And I'm going to have that in our little description below. But this is phenomenal, phenomenal work. And it sounds, you're living that golden rule. You're gaining more by giving what you from your experiences. So through the book writing, and then also this other 12-week course, Elevate Your Inner Boss, because we each have one. I think these are excellent, excellent things that you're doing. Phenomenal things you're putting out there into the world.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This has been a lot of fun for me. So thank you so much for your time today. And I encourage anyone to get your hands on her book, Boss Vibes, Self-Esteem, Success, and the Art of Etiquette. And after you've read the book and you start using these wise tips that she shared on today's podcast and in her book and gained insights, please leave a review. This does so much to not only promote the book, Nita herself, but also the book's availability and her program's availability that she described today to make a larger impact on a larger group of people. So this is phenomenal stuff. I thank you so much for your time today, Nita. It was such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was, I enjoyed our conversation very much. Thank you.
I did too, and I will be really excited about looking into your different programs. I think this is great work, and I love what you're doing for women. That is, women empower other women is just a great, great energy to put out there.
Thank you. Yes, certainly you. my mission.
And you're fulfilling it. And thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much.
There were so many fantastic nuggets of information and jewels of information that Nita gave in this interview. And I love the comment about having the confidence so that you will make better decisions. And then with these great decisions that you've made, you will actually put them into action. And action is the antidote for fear. It is the antidote for lack of motion. And it is what's going to get you towards your dreams. I am going to tell you guys a little secret at the end of this interview that I had a different platform set up for us to conduct the interview. And sure enough, there was an error message and technical difficulties, as there are always. And in the beginning of our time together, I was frantically emailing her, let's do it on this platform. And she just shifted from one thing to another and just was smooth sailing all the way. So I am so thankful for that. But I am also grateful for all the listeners, and I'm excited for you to learn more about Nita and just learn more about empowering. You gain more by giving, and that is exactly what she exemplifies. So until next Tuesday, when I'll see you guys again, let's keep building one another up.